Hey, what's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to tell you why you should stop making limited liability companies the beneficiary of your land trust. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here's the deal. I see this time and time again. People are setting up land trusts and they continue to want to make their limited liability company the beneficiary. And I get it. If you watch my other videos, you know I talk about the benefits of land trust, but also some of the drawbacks. The most notable drawback being that if you have a land trust and you have property in it, and it's not a Florida land trust, and the property is sued, that means a tenant slips and falls on the property or something happens, and they sue that land trust. Well, the beneficiaries are going to be liable. So you're thinking, all right, well, what's the purpose of a land trust if I put a piece of property into it and somebody brings a claim against that trust and I'm the beneficiary, then they're going to sue me individually. So the solution to that is always to use a limited liability company. Let me just show you what I'm referring to here. So oftentimes what we'll do when we're setting up land trusts, we'll set up this trust to hold a piece of property. And then we're going to make this LLC down here the beneficiary of that land trust. Now, again, why are we doing that? So if a lawsuit hits this property, somebody's injured on the property, they're going to sue the property owner. So they're going to be suing that trust. Now, when they sue the trust, they're also going to name the trust beneficiary as an additional party. And so we want that LLC to be named as that additional party, right? It makes sense. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I have a land trust set up and I'm listed down here as that beneficiary so that if a lawsuit hits here, then they come down and they bring me in as that additional party to that case. And if they get a judgment against the trust, well, that judgment's going to hit me. That's why we're using the strategy with that LLC. We want it to hit here, but not hit us individually. So why am I telling you now, do not make your LLC the beneficiary of your trust? What I'm saying is that when you put your trust together, do not list that LLC on there as the beneficiary. You see, what you should be doing when you create this structure is set up your land trust like this and list yourself as the beneficiary of your trust. Now, land trusts are private documents. So if you're concerned about having your information exposed on the public record, that will not happen because these documents are not going to be recorded anywhere where someone could just pull up the trust and say, oh, wow, look at that. It's John. He's the beneficiary of this trust. Now we know who was actually involved here. And that anonymity they were trying to use with the nominee trustee, well, that just doesn't work because now we see who the owner is. So because it offers privacy, it also offers then opportunities. Now, when you create your trust, the reason I'm telling you do not use an LLC, use yourself as the beneficiary, is because this trust document may be reviewed by a third party, meaning oftentimes when we transfer title to real estate into a land trust, the county, in order to not reassess the property, will ask to see a copy of the trust. And what they're looking for is this. They want to see that originally, that, you know, if the property's in your name, you deeded into this trust, they want to look at the trust and say, all right, is this person the same individual? That is the beneficiary of the trust. Is that the same person that owned the property prior to the transfer? And this will get you around having the property reassessed or transfer taxes that will come due when you transfer property into a trust. So that's the first reason why you want to keep yourself listed on your land trust as the beneficiary. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what about the asset protection piece here? Because if it gets sued, then they're going to come after me. I'm going to get to that. Now, the second reason why you do not want to list an LLC on this trust is that when parties are reviewing this, let's say maybe you're going to refi the property. When you bring an LLC, when you have a trust document that shows an LLC here, or even the county, when they look at this trust and they see this limited liability company, it starts to complicate things for you. Meaning once they see this document here, the next request you're going to receive from a lender or from the county is, oh, now we need to look at your limited liability company. And if you're using a strategy similar to what I teach on many of my videos, is that, hey, now you want to have a Wyoming LLC down here for anonymity purposes, it's going to take this third party that's looking at your trust to this document here, to this document here, then they're not going to find out anything there, and it's going to create a lot of chaos for you or a lot of extra effort. So this is what brings me to my point. When you're creating your trust, we don't want anyone to see all of this down here. We want to keep that hidden from the trust documents. So when I create my land trust, what I'm going to do is list myself as that initial beneficiary. But in order to get my asset protection, after I've created my trust, all right, so it's set up like this, and I'm down here as that initial trust beneficiary. After I've set up this trust document, I've drafted it, boom, I've signed it, I'm the beneficiary. That's when I'm going to go over and I'm going to assign the interest here to my LLC. So this is the critical piece here. You're now listed as the beneficiary, but we know we don't want you to be there because if anything happens, right, this property, somebody slips and falls or whatever it is, and a lawsuit's brought against the trust, we don't want you to be the current trust beneficiary. Now, this is one of the major benefits of using land trusts is that you can transfer the ownership of that trust to a third party or to your own entity. So now I can take my ownership interest in this trust and move it into this LLC. And by doing so, I don't need to change my trust document. The way you effectuate this type of transfer is through what we call an assignment of interest. Okay, so every land trust interest that you hold can be assigned, transferred to your LLC, to your corporation, to another party. I mean, this is how a lot of subject to transactions take place. Or if you're buying property, HUD-owned properties, they'll take title and land trust and then assign the beneficial off to the investor. So this is not anything new. We do this day in and day out here at Anderson when working with people with land trusts. We will assign their interest over to the LLC. So essentially what happens now is your trust is owned by the LLC. But if a third party will ask you to say, hey, I want to look at your trust to see, are you involved with this? Sure, you send them the trust, you don't send them the assignment. All right, you just send them the trust document. They'll see you here, but they won't see the fact that you've transferred your ownership to the LLC. Now, of course, in the event of a lawsuit, if this were to come up, you would obviously send them a copy of the trust and a copy of your assignment. Now, here's what's really important as well. When you're assigning this interest over to that limited liability company, this assignment, all right, when you prepare this, it needs to be either notarized or use a service such as DocuSign to put a date on there so you can establish the date in which it was actually transferred. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to list the date. However, someone could say, yeah, maybe you just backdated the document. By having it either notarized or DocuSigned, now you have that date, which makes it very hard to refute when you intended to transfer your interest over to that limited liability company. So when you're using land trust, keep your name on there as the beneficiary initially, then assign that interest over to the LLC. It'll solve a lot of headaches in the future when people ask to see a copy of that trust document. Hey guys, if you like this video, you know what to do. Be sure to hit the like button. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, well, here's your opportunity now to be updated every time I release new information about tax and asset protection for real estate investors. Take care.